Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast. We are continuing with my collection of Japanese films. We got some really good ones tonight. The first one is a basically two-part film. It's one that very few people know about, but I think it's freaking hilarious. And that is Kisarazu Cat's Eye. This is based off of a television series that was pretty good, but these theatrical films are just outstanding. Just outstanding. So we got my boy here, Junichi Okada, who does quite a few action movies nowadays in Japan. He's pretty good at like physical action. He's got a really good screen presence, and he's very likable as a comedic actor. So this movie, Kisarazu Cat's Eye, it's completely nuts. A guy finds out that he has 6 months to live and decides to have as much fun with his friends as humanly possible. So this is not a downer by any means. It barely even gets serious at all. So you don't have to worry about like melodrama or anything like that. This is just straight up just crazy comedy, but the script writing in this is just awesome. Like they really go through a lot of effort in executing these jokes. I mean, you'll have scenes that at first like don't make any sense, and then it'll show a flashback to something that happened before, and the scene ends up making sense, and you start laughing hysterically. The pacing is really fast. This is a lot of fun, this movie. Definitely a little bit different, but this should be really one of the mainstay titles for people to get into Japanese film, I think. It moves very fast, though. Very fast. So like the subtitles sometimes fly by pretty quickly, but it's totally worth watching, man. And of course we have the sequel, or part 2 as I like to say, Kisarazu Cat's Eye Part 2, and now this takes place 3 years after our boy down here dies. So he's dead in this one, but that doesn't stop him and a bunch of his buddies from having all kinds of fun. Actually, I think his buddies attempt to resurrect him or something crazy. And in this one, you have a crazy baseball game finale. Chiaki Kuriyama shows up, and a load of zombies as well. So this one just like takes the insanity of the first one and ups it again. So these films are definitely a lot of fun. I think they're really funny, really sharp, witty humor too. So check out Kisarazu Cat's Eye 1 and 2 if I think they're widely available, or at least they used to be in the United States. Man, I want to rewatch these again. I just watched these about a year ago, but I want to watch them again. This one is from Japan. I got this while I was on vacation, I believe. This is Kokkuri, or Kokkuri-san. Not a very good movie. I covered this in my Asian horror playlist. Maybe this is a 1997 film. It's just kind of dull. It doesn't really have a whole lot going on. Check out my review from that year if you're interested. Our next film tonight is a film, Kotoko, from our good friend Shinya Tsukamoto, or at least he's my good friend, Shinya Tsukamoto. So this one is about a single mother, who has some serious psychological problems. She's almost completely lost her mind early in the film because she engages in self-mutilation and hallucinates into seeing evil doppelgangers that do not exist. So this one, Tsukamoto likes to have some of his shocking moments in the films, and this one certainly has them. But it's a very well-crafted drama, dark drama. If obviously there's a toddler at play here, and given the woman's psychological condition, it gets pretty intense because you fear for the safety of this child character. And a lot of the tension is derived from that scenario. Again, this is a Third Window Films release, and their releases are always good. Not a whole lot of special features. You got an exclusive interview with Shinya Tsukamoto, some trailers. But the film itself is very good. It grew on me after I watched it a second time. Tsukamoto, it usually takes him like 3 or 4 years to make a movie, but when he makes it and releases it, it's good. Very good. I mean, his last 3 feature-length films were Nightmare Detective 2 back in 2008, which was awesome. Kotoko from 2011, which was really good, and then Fires on the Plain from 2014, which was really good. So I'm hoping gets back into directs another film. He's been acting the last few years, which I really like, and he apparently really enjoys doing. But get back in that director's chair, Shinya. Give me something. This next one was a surprise. That is Kotsutsubo. And I will get to this in my Asian horror playlist. I think this might be a 2012 film. This one surprised me. It sounded like a pretty generic premise. You got a schoolgirl who tries a little bit of witchcraft or sorcery to get back at a teacher who's a real jerk. And there's some consequences of that, and it's not what you might think. There's some really good stuff in this one. I think some of the final shot itself was really cool. This is one of my favorite final shots of a horror film in a while. So, yeah, I'll get to a more detailed review in my playlist. All right, this one here. Let me see. Check the title here. This one is Lake of Dracula. Again, this is part of the Toho Vampire series from the early 70s. There's 3 of these. I think Vampire Doll, Evil of Dracula, and Lake of Dracula are the 3 films. I think I only have 2 of them, though, in my collection, so I may have to rectify that and get the 3rd one. Again, check out my Asian horror playlist reviews from the early 70s for my thoughts on all of these. Very cool vampire flicks, man. They're real old school. I think they have really nice atmosphere. The storylines can be hit or miss. I think Vampire Doll is probably the most legitimately, the most legitimate quality out of the 3. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, they're all pretty cool. Alright, our next film here is from our boy Yasujiro Ozu, of course. Late Autumn. Now this one... Let me fire up my notes here. This one is arguably my favorite film from this director, believe it or not. Not a lot of people hold this one up as like their favorite, but there's a few different reasons for that. You basically have some old men attempting to persuade a widowed mother, played by Setsuko Hara, and her daughter, Yoko Tsukasa, to marry in this film by Ozu. As usual, the actresses here are amazing. Ozu was excellent at directing everybody, but the women in his films really shine. But the best performance I have in my notes here is from Mariko Okada, who plays the daughter's friend, Yuriko. And I think she also was a girl who had some spunk to her. She had an attitude, and I like that in a film like this. So you have 3 really good female performances in this movie. And, this is considered a reworking of Ozu's earlier film, Late Spring. But when I first saw it, I had thought it was a sequel to Early Summer. So, I mean, I know officially it's a reworking of Late Spring, I think. But in my eyes, it was a sequel to Early Summer. Just, I don't know what made me think that. But yes, this is a, Criterion release, very good. I love this movie, too. It's solid. Alright, this one, I have a separate review on my channel, Le Portrait de Petite Cossette. So again, one of the first anime films that really blew me away, man. Very few people know about this one, too. Excellent animation, fantastic soundtrack, really interesting and macabre storyline. It's basically an anime horror film, in my opinion. Excellent. I actually had an extra DVD of this at my house, and I figured, what the heck, so I mailed it to Chris Stuckman at his P.O. box, and he actually watched it, and he loved it. So there's a second recommendation for you, if you're a fan of him. He really enjoyed it, as did I. Alright, our next film here is a prologue to a really good Takashi Miike film, and that is Lesson of the Evil Prologue. Now again, I will cover Lesson of the Evil in my Asian horror playlist soon. I thought that film was fantastic. This is a made-for-television prequel with the same lead actor. I think his name's Hideaki Ito, who I thought his performances were uneven earlier in his career, but he's given some really good performances later in his career these past few years, and this is one of them. This Prologue is more dramatic. It's like a dramatic thriller instead of like a horror thriller like the theatrical film, but there's a lot of really good stuff in this. There's a lot of tension, like slow burn tension, because this teacher, you know, some of his colleagues begin to suspect that he has a very dubious and dangerous past, and they start digging into it, and it might not be the safest thing. So, yeah, that's kind of like the setup for the feature film. I'm not really sure which one I would say to watch first. I don't know. That's a good question. When I review the feature film, I'll let you know then if I remember which one you should watch first. But get both of them because they're both really good. Lesson of the Evil. Our next one here was a big film back in the mid-2000s when it first came out, but nobody talks about it anymore. And that is Linda, Linda, Linda. So this one, on only 3 days before their high school festival, a guitarist, a drummer, and a bassist are forced to recruit a new lead vocalist for their band. They choose Korean exchange student Son, though her comprehension of Japanese is a bit rough. And it's a race against time as the group struggles to learn 3 tunes for the festival's rock concert, including a classic 80s punk pop song by the Japanese group The Blue Hearts called Linda Linda. So yes, this one, you have a loaded cast. You have Dunabe, who's a big-time Korean actress. You have Aki Maeda from Battle Royal. And then you have Yukashi, too, who was Light's girlfriend in the first Death Note theatrical film. So this is a really good cast. And I remember it being very entertaining. Just a really good, like, feel-good movie. You know, it's got some good songs in it. Pretty laid back, too. It doesn't get too wacky. So if you're into that type of film, Linda, Linda, Linda is a very solid, reliable option. Alright, here's another horror film, surprise, surprise. It's one in the Hideshi Hino Theater of Horror. This is Lizard Baby. Yes, Lizard Baby. I think all of these came out in 2004, maybe? So check out my video from 2004 if you want to know my thoughts on this one. Again, Hideshi Hino Theater of Horror is kind of hit or miss, whereas the Kazuo Umezu one I think was more overall successful and entertaining, but yeah, it's Lizard Baby. I think that one I thought was pretty good, if I remember correctly. Alright, our next film here, again, I covered Asian horror playlist. Kiyoshi Kurosawa, Loft. Very underrated horror film, in my opinion. It does have a few awkward moments, which people really just throw the whole film away. They throw the baby out with the bathwater, I think, in their criticisms of this one. Because there are a few awkward moments, but so much of this film is so interesting and atmospheric and so different from a lot of horror films. And that's Kiyoshi for you, right? So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Got to rewatch it soon. Miki Nakatani's the lead actress in it, of course. It's good. But a lot of people don't really like it. Alright. Another horror film I covered. Man, this one is really rough-shaped DVD. Long Dream from 2000, I think? Again, very weird movie, man. Weird movie. But it's pretty interesting. It took me a second viewing to appreciate, I think. It's like a bunch of scientists are researching dreams. Somebody, like, every time they go to sleep, they experience longer and longer periods of time in their sleep, which is kind of a weird premise. They don't really tap the premise entirely, develop it entirely, but it's a pretty interesting film. Check out my review of that one. You want some details. This is a blind buy that did not turn out too well. Lost Harmony. This is a Japanese slasher from the early 2010s, I believe. Not very good, man. The trailer looked alright when I saw it on YouTube, but I don't know. You know, a bunch of girls go to a secluded area, they get killed. But death scenes aren't good, and there's not much atmosphere. It's pretty... I didn't like it. I'll tell you more reasons why in my playlist when I get to it. Alright, our next film is one of the first ones that I was really disappointed in for my boy Ryohei Kitamura. This was kind of the beginning of the end of his Japanese film. Although, he did make Lupin the Third in recent years, which I did enjoy. A lot of people didn't, but... LoveDeath. I forgot, what was the problem with this one? This one just... I've only seen it one time, though. I may need to rewatch it and see if it grows on me. This is a comedy action film from 2006. Tough guy runs away with a Yakuza girlfriend. 160-minute runtime. That's 2 hours and 40 minutes, people. But it doesn't really pack much content in it. There's a lot of filler. A lot of chit-chat and small talk. Ineffective jokes. Lame comedy. The action itself is sparse and not too impressive. So all of that together, you're dealing with a disappointment. Especially from the director of Azumi and Versus and those flicks. So I didn't like it. But I only saw it one time. You know how I am. Sometimes I enjoy films a lot more second time around. Alright. We got a big one. A must-have for anybody who likes Japanese films. That is Love Exposure from Sion Sono. I gotta do a full-length review of this movie. Even though it's very popular, I gotta do it. It's too important and great of a film. And 4-hour runtime in this bad boy. Now, I do think that it does have some pacing problems during the latter half. The first 2 hours of this film roll by so fast. Like, you're rolling 2 hours into this movie. You're like, man, this is phenomenal. And then Sono slows it down a lot during the second half. So some people think you could watch this in segments. I don't think so. I think you watch this sucker 4 hours at a time, because when you're riding on that 2 hour high of that just nonstop, just like entertainment value, it starts to slow down and you can ride that high, and it helps you get through the second half a little bit more. I'm not saying that the second half is bad or anything. The second half is actually really good, but the pacing is such a huge downshift, you know, that it's good to have that momentum going through the whole way. So I really think you got to watch this in 1 4-hour segment. Totally worth watching. It's one of the best Japanese films of the last 10 years. It's really good stuff. It's really a genre bender. I didn't even bother to tell you the premise because it's too complicated. But I'll review it later, don't worry. I also have the UK release before it came out in the US. You got a 1 hour long making of. Oh yeah, the making of Love Exposure is really entertaining. It actually has, you can find some clips on YouTube. Sion Sono just completely abused Hikari Mitsushima while making this film. He just psychological abuse. But he got a great performance out of her, so I guess you can't blame him. So, yes, Love Exposure is a must-see. So that's it tonight. We made some progress again. And, as always, join me for my next video. I will cover more Japanese movies, and I will see you next time.